Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michelle, mama of 4 and military wife, and I'm passionate about helping women get healthy from the inside out so they can feel better and live their best life. Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight and get in shape? If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably, then you're in the right place. I combine my expertise from my doctorate in physical therapy to my experience as a health coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher to bring you actionable steps for a healthy lifestyle. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. All right, friends, so welcome to the podcast today. I'm going to be talking about handling stress without turning to food. So most people think that they just need the perfect diet or workout plan to finally lose weight. But what they don't realize is that stress, more than anything else, could really be the real reason that they're stuck. When you're constantly stressed, your body can hold on to that weight. You might have more cravings, and you might not make healthy choices because you're feeling so much stress and anxiety. That's because when you're in a stress state, you're reacting from your emotional brain, not the logical part of our brain, that prefrontal cortex that makes good decisions. And when we're running on autopilot because we're used to what we're doing, it's easy to just fall into those old habits, no matter how bad we want to change. So this is why mindset work matters just as much as food and exercise do. When you start understanding your thoughts, shifting your perspective, and managing your stress differently, everything gets easier. You stop fighting yourself, and instead you start making choices that actually align with the person that you want to be. And I know firsthand how much stress can throw you off track. It's easy to get caught up in stress and bad thinking, and it's something I continue to work on for myself. But I also know that having the right tools and the right support to work through things in our lives makes all the difference. And that's why for a limited time, I'm offering 30% off of 3 months of my coaching and or my personal training app. I know that reaching out and setting up a call can feel so intimidating, but I urge you, if that's you and you're feeling stuck, just to set up the call. I know that I wouldn't have got through my recent move that my family just had this past month as well mentally if I didn't have my coach. She helped me to see things differently that I couldn't see. She helped me to shift my mindset. I was like, I really don't want to go through this. I don't want to go through this next month. And that was making me feel crappy. So once I was able to work through that and shift my mindset, I felt so much better. And that's exactly what coaching does. It helps you to see things from a different perspective. It gives you structure and support. It gives you someone in your corner that you know is going to ask you those follow-through questions. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, let's change that. You can set up a free call with me. It can be phone or video, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And we're just going to go through your goals, what's been holding you back, and try to figure out what you actually need to make real progress. It's no pressure, just clarity. So make sure you guys check the links in the description below to set up your free call. All right, so let's dive into the topic today. Have you ever found yourself halfway through a bag of chips before you even realized it? Or have you ever been in the drive-thru lane to pick something up and don't even remember pulling in? I just want to acknowledge that stress eating isn't a lack of willpower. It's a coping mechanism. And we do these things on autopilot because that has what felt good for us for so long. When we're stressed or when we get home from work or whatever that is, we just grab that bag of food, whatever our vice is, and it makes us feel better. So in a sense, it's emotionally been working out for us. But if you're listening, you're probably realizing it's not working out for your health and what you really want for yourself. And I think it's important that we realize the importance of mindset and also to give ourselves compassion. So I recently saw this post that I'm going to read to you guys. And so this person was saying that she had lost 45 pounds on those weight loss medications we're all hearing about. and she had to get off it because insurance wasn't covering it and gained that weight right back. She says, I feel embarrassed, sad, and frustrating. I cannot control my eating. I eat because I feel sad, and then it makes me even more sad that I overeat. She's like, I'm already working out 4 to 5 times a week. It's not the exercise. And literally someone put this in the comments, and I'm going to read this because maybe sometimes we have these thoughts about ourselves that just like aren't helpful. But this is like someone else saying this to her. She says, you have to want it. If you want it bad enough, you can control your eating. It's just dedication. So that is a very not helpful comment and not true at all. But I just wanted to share this because sometimes when we want to change and we're struggling and we're getting stuck in these cycles, is that we beat ourselves up. We think that something's wrong with us, that we should be able to control this. But I'm here to tell you, this is where this mindset work and knowing how to handle our stress really comes into play. It is helpful to have a why, but if you're struggling, it's not that you don't want it bad enough. You don't have the right tools. So I want you to become aware of that talk in your head, because usually we're our own worst enemy. We might have heard some mean and negative things from other people too, but most of us are beating ourselves up really bad. So when we're stressed, our stress is going to raise cortisol, our stress hormone. Now, cortisol in the right doses, small doses, is okay. Like, we need to feel that little bit of stress sometimes when we see our child get close to a car that's moving. We want to have that to make us move. But when we have more chronic stress and we're stressed over things that really aren't like a safety danger type thing, our cortisol can raise. And that can make us crave sugar and carbs because they're comforting. And maybe you notice this when you eat things in carbs, and this can be like chips too. People are always thinking carbs as in sweets and things, but chips are carbs. They're potatoes that we temporarily feel as soothing, but it doesn't solve the problem. So whatever caused our stress, we might soothe it a little bit with food, but we didn't solve the problem. And it's hard in the world we live in. God created this food for us, like real whole food. But now in our culture, we have added so much sugar, salt, and fat to things. We have marketing. People know how to make things more tasty. And we just have this overabundance and this over pleasure with food that it tastes so good. It just wasn't meant to be like this. But this is the culture we live in. But we can still start to detach from that. I used to eat ice cream every night. I no longer do that. At that point, when I was eating ice cream every night, it felt like I couldn't not do that. But I can. And I'm not drawn to it like I was before. So we can change. So just because all this food is around us doesn't mean that we can't change. So we might have this habit loop of getting stressed. Then you have a craving for cookie, chips, ice cream, and you eat. Then you feel guilt, and then you feel more stress. So if we avoid this, we aren't treating the core problem. So we're avoiding that stress by eating. So if we keep avoiding that stress, that core problem, it's not going to get better. And this is the problem with diets or weight loss drugs, is that they're not treating the core problem. So people might be able to follow a diet for so many months and lose some weight, but then they can't stick with it and they gain the weight back, maybe even more. They can certainly pop a pill for a weight loss drug, but if they were to go off of that, most likely they might gain that weight back because they haven't changed their relationship with food. So those cravings, those habits are going to come right back because now their stomach is actually going to feel hungry versus when they're on the medicine and their appetite is suppressed. And this is a big part of what I work on in coaching. We all have stress. We all have thoughts that aren't helpful. And when we can start to shift those, we can start to change our relationship with food. Our food doesn't have to be our comfort anymore. And that can feel really unsafe to us. If we've been using whatever it is to relieve our stress, to feel better, to decrease that anxious feeling we're feeling, it feels super unsafe to our brain. Like, you want to do something else? Like, this has been working for me. It makes me feel better. So we have to work through that and allow our brains to see other ways to feel safe when we're stressed too. So we have to be able to identify our stress triggers. Is it work? Is it kids, relationships, lack of sleep, feeling overwhelmed? So we have to start to bring more awareness to that. And we have to be able to ask ourselves, am I actually hungry or am I just stressed? And when we do this work, it's not like you know this magic thing to do and it's magically going to be fixed the next day. Like tomorrow, you're not going to be stressed and you're like, I listened to this great podcast. I'm no longer going to eat when I'm stressed. For the majority of us, it's not going to work like that. It is deeper work that we have to do. But we have to have that awareness. Am I hungry or am I stressed? And start getting really curious. We have to be like scientists, not judges who are mean and condemning us. We have to be able to pause and check in with ourselves before reaching for food. And then we have to be willing to do that deeper work to understand why we're stressed. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? Do we have to feel some of those emotions first? Can we start to shift some of our thoughts? Are we not seeing the full truth in the situation? And so that is what I do a lot in coaching. We work with that deeper stuff. You can also do journaling. I also give my clients self-coaching questions. So they have a list of questions that they can do on their own too, because that daily awareness of how I'm thinking, feeling, and reacting is super important. So when we put this work in on our mindset, it pays off, and it pays off long term. And it pays off not only like in this area of health, of like wanting to lose weight or get healthier, but these same tools apply to your relationships, to work, to your kids, to your life. So not only when you learn these tools will you see an improvement with your health, but you can apply these to other areas in your life too. So once you've identified the triggers and you're asking yourself, am I hungry or just stressed? And you're taking that pause, you have to have ways and tools to handle those emotions and stress. So first, we have to be able to feel our feelings. And there's different ways you can do this. So many of us want to suppress our feelings, and that's what's causing so many problems in our life. These air quote negative feelings don't feel good. They feel uncomfortable, and we avoid them. And if you're like me, I grew up I was taught to sort of avoid them and that they weren't true. Like, oh, you're fine. But when we can start to feel them, not necessarily get stuck in them, but feel them, then we can move on from them. Otherwise, they sort of stay with us. So this is where just becoming aware of that sensation in our body, what it feels like. Or one of my favorite things to do is EFT, emotional freedom techniques, tapping, because it tunes into your emotion, where you're feeling in your body, those thoughts that go with it. And it helps to create that safety in your body. It helps you to become aware of some of those thoughts, maybe you're not aware of, that are creating those feelings. So it's a really great tool for feeling those emotions or feelings that come up. I also really like to do deep breathing, like that belly breathing. It really can help to regulate our nervous system, and deep breathing we can do anywhere. Now, deep breathing isn't necessarily feeling our feelings. It's sort of calming our body. So those are different things, but a lot of times we need that moment in time where we're also calming our nervous system. Sometimes also when we're feeling feelings, especially if it's a stronger feeling like anger or maybe feeling anxious, adrenaline can get built up in our body. And a good way to help relieve some of that adrenaline is to move. Because the adrenaline was created in our body to make us, run from the lion. So maybe something happens and I'm feeling anxious. My body released a bunch of adrenaline. It wants to move, but maybe we're not moving. So sometimes actually moving our body, whether that's like jumping, shaking, walking, like tapping our hands, tapping our feet, whatever it is, can help to release some of that adrenaline that comes from some of those emotions. So the next part is really rewiring our brain. Once we've sort of become aware of these triggers, we're regulating our body, we've allowed our emotions to be there, we have to change our thoughts. I don't know about you guys, but it's easy for me to have a bunch of negative thoughts. It's easy for me to go down a loop of things that isn't going to happen. It's easy for me to see the negative in someone instead of the positive or the full truth. So once we have that calming nervous system, we need to work on our thoughts. And there's a technique I go through with my clients to do this that's really helpful. And we get used to doing this in coaching. And then it's also a tool that people can do on their own. So when we know how to look at the circumstance that is going on, and we can become aware of the thoughts that we have and notice how those thoughts are creating feelings. And from those feelings, that's how we react and do things. And we can start to shift that to an intentional way. Because when we can have a different thought, it's going to create a different feeling in our body and we're going to act differently. I briefly mentioned at the beginning on this last move for me, I was really stuck and I had told my coach because I tried to work this out on my own, I couldn't. I'm like, the thought that I don't want to go through this next move or this next month, which was we had Christmas, we had packing the house, we had staying in hotels, we had closing on a new house and moving into the new house. The thought that I didn't want to do that was super strong. I'm that feels so true. I can't think of another thought that still feels true. But when I think that thought, it just makes me feel miserable. It makes me feel like I don't want to do this at all, but I have to. I don't have a choice. So she helped me to shift my thought. And she just asked me some questions. And from her questions, I was like, no, I'm actually, part of us is really excited about moving. My husband's job is going to be stable. I'm happy to go back where there's grass, trees, and water because we were in Arizona. There was actually a lot of things I was excited for about moving. But my mind was so stuck in, I don't want to do this next month. It's so much work that I was feeling miserable. And after that conversation and writing down those new thoughts that were true and focusing on those, it was able to give me more peace. And I no longer felt stuck in that thought. But imagine if I went through that whole month feeling like that. I would have been crabby, not pleasant to be around, struggling. Just that one thought, changing that one thought was huge. So I share that because it's just so important that we have tools to work with our mindset and work with our thoughts. And this is a big part of what I do in coaching. So those little steps I had was identifying your common triggers with your stress and being able to pause. And then having a way to handle the feelings that come up, not stuffing them, actually feeling them for a limited time. We don't want to feel them forever. Maybe, 2 to 10 minutes, whatever you need. Doing any nervous system regulation, deep breathing, movement. I didn't mention this, going outside, journaling, music, fresh air, whatever it is, to reset that nervous system. And then to work on those thoughts, because know that those thoughts are leading your feelings and your actions or your inactions that you take in your life. All right, friends, my sale is going to be ending soon. So if you are someone who has thought that coaching might be helpful for you, but you're just not sure about it, set up that free call so you can take advantage of the 30% off for 3 months. It's a no pressure call. If we don't feel either one of us doesn't feel like it's a fit, it's totally fine. All right, so check those links in the descriptions and just reach out, friends, if you have any questions.